And once again, welcome. And I will hand it over to Yosi.
Thank you, Pauline. Thank you. So, hello, and welcome to whoever you are. And I will quote one of my favorite friends, Rumi, which is, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. It doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vow 1,000 times. Come yet again. Come. Such is our spiritual journey. We all fall off the horse and we get back on the horse again and again. We set an intention, we don't follow it up. So the trick is to get on the horse faster and quicker and forgive ourselves for our humanity. And each time we do that with more grace and more ease, with more practice. So the question is, who is the horse and who is the rider? Sometimes it feels like our mind, which should be our servant tool, becomes the rider. And we, our soul essence, our spirit, struggles under its weight. So hopefully we'll see about removing some of the weight here today so we can get clear on who's the writer. And perhaps we'll discover there might not be even a writer. There's just the joy of writing. Wouldn't that be fun? So let's begin by taking a quick look inside and who's here and together. And perhaps you could type into the chat a few words about what you experience in this moment and where you are being plugged into our network, into our grid from. So would love to see where everybody's plugged in from and just a few adjectives about what you're experiencing. Okay, we've got Pauline, Mill Valley, heartbreak, gratitude, and excitement. What potent combination. I'm here from Santa Cruz, California. Joy, curiosity, anticipation. Nancy, still riding the waves of solstice in Portland. Okay, yeah, it's powerful energy, hopefully, with this long day and all the light and energy entering the sun, radiance, we can shine some light and warmth. Got John here. Pleasanton, frustration at the state of the world. Danielle, joy and gratitude for the opportunities at hand. Big game, big challenges. Indeed. Kathy, Edmonton, Canada. Great. Open and relative calm, keeping the mind at bay for now. Also, Santa Cruz. Okay, Daniel, awesome. Helping with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Wow. Yeah. Okay, well, it's awesome and a delight to see you all coming in. We got Oakdale angry, angry, perhaps frustrated, annoyed. Okay, welcome to that. All is welcome. All is welcome here. And I'm glad you all feel free to express these quote unquote negative emotions, states of being, not only the beautiful, grateful, joyful ones. So we want to include all in our humanity, and we'll talk some more about why that's so important. Now, as you look at some of these feelings that you've named or experiences, notice if those are familiar experiences, ones you tend to experience often and consistent with your self-image. I might have an image that I'm a spiritual seeker, which is nice, But if I'm always this seeker, then it's just hard to rest into being. Or it might be I'm a sad person, I'm a joyful person, or I'm a compassionate person, or I'm a self-absorbed person, or I'm an angry person. I often go to anger. Most of us, all of us at one point or another experience sadness or joy, compassion, self-absorption, and all of that. Uh, uh, and that's not a problem if it's flowing, but if for some of us it's regular enough and then we kind of calcify it and create an identity around it, then that's a problem because it limits the flow of life and its natural flow through us. So, you might be wondering what is wrong about identifying with being joyful or compassionate person. Those are great qualities. Don't we want them? Yes, for sure. But like anything, when we fixate on them, as I said, we limit our openness and our aliveness. So I'll use a few examples for myself. One of my self-limiting identities is that I'm smart. Okay, it's pretty good, right? But the problem is sometimes it blocks me from asking naive questions because I'm afraid I might look dumb either for others or myself. So that limits my learning and my curiosity. Another one might be compassionate person. It's a great virtue, right? But sometimes when our boundaries are crossed, we need to be angry and fierce in order to protect something precious that we love. But if we believe we are always kind and gentle and compassionate, that might make it difficult for us to be assertive and fierce and say, no, stop. No, that's not okay. And make it clear that we're angry. And that kind of sends the signal that we're going to fight for what we want to protect. And so if we're just always kind of too soft or what we think is kind and compassion, then that's really not true compassion because it's setting the clear boundaries, more compassionate to ourselves and to the person that's about to enact a transgression, which does damage to the soul and accrues them a negative karma. So compassion is our natural quality of our true nature and essential heart, and it will arise naturally when our heart is open in the face of suffering, our own and others. So there's no need for us to hold on to it as an identity. We can practice compassion to open our heart without needing to hold on to it as an identity. And similarly, if we hold on to the identity of being a joyful and happy-go-lucky person, we might limit our sadness and grief when somebody or something that we lose is important. And it's important to allow ourselves to grieve because it is a sign of our love for it. And in the grieving, we let go and we create the opening for something new to emerge. And you might have run across people that have a hard time letting themselves feel sad or grieve, even when that's the real and human response. So let me share with you actually a client story about how positive identities can become limiting and problematic. And so in this case, one of my clients, I'll call him Jacob, they were a second-time successful entrepreneur. He sold his first company that did consumer game app that was a smashing success. He cashed out, made lots of money. So when he did his second startup, he had easy time raising millions of dollars, recruited a second team, a great team for it. But for whatever reason, the product wasn't getting much traction and he was struggling and he didn't know what to do. And he spent a lot of time and energy thinking, gee, I thought I was a great designer and I had the Midas touch, but the product was failing. So he spent a lot of energy trapped in this paradox for him. And so we did this exercise, which we'll do in a way together to identify his identities. And one of them was that he was a great designer, and that was the problem. But he then lost that identity, and what was remaining was this open, clear presence and awareness. And once he could let go of that, then his natural creativity and openness could show up, and he could address the problem without all his energy consumed trying to hold on to this identity and reconcile how it was that he was a great designer, but the product wasn't really working so great. So when our energy isn't absorbed in maintaining our identities or feeding our ego, which is desperately trying to shore up our sense of worth, we're much more available to respond to the circumstances, to life in a fresh and unencumbered way. And of course, when we can shed those identities, they don't vanish permanently. They come back. And when, if one of my identities is to be a parent or a partner or a manager or whatever, we can honor those roles without merging with them or getting confused that thinking that that's who we are. We can put on these clothes for an occasion and then take them off when we don't need them. So in fact, the word personality, which comes from in Greek from the word persona, it means a mask, a face mask that's used to denote a character as a social role in a Greek play. Though any mask, as I said, even a positive one, can become limiting and limits us. So and we can get confused. So as I said, even positive identities could become a problem like an egoic shell. And we want to lift the veil and look at our essential spirit. And when we can toss these identities, what is left is the immutable truth of the simplicity of our being, our presence, I am, which we can experience as a pure, radiant, alive, and loving consciousness. So in a few moments, we'll have the opportunity to do an exercise where you get to experience some of this yourself. But if positive identities, as I was trying to say, can become a problem, how much more so for our negative identities? I, for one, hold myself as a shy person. So I'm likely more reluctant to walk up to someone and introduce myself or strike up a conversation in a gathering, in a party, or in a business networking event. And if shy is the worst of it, it wouldn't be so bad. For most of us, there are many more negative attributes and qualities that we assign to ourselves. I can, for one, sometimes be aloof or self-absorbed. I could be heady or overly intellectual. And I'm sure there are many more, but as I said, I'm shy. So I'm not going to be able to share any more with you. Oops. You see, that's my shy identity stopping me from being more vulnerable, which limits my connection and intimacy with you and others. And for many of us, underneath our egoic shell and positive identities, there might be deeper negative identities, like I am weak, I am broken, I'm unlovable, I'm deficient, I'm unattractive. And we spend much of our life's energy and egoic energy to fight against and suppress these identities, these negative identities, which exhausts and limits us. And we build this egoic shell around to avoid feeling these negative feelings and attributes about ourselves. So far I'm talking about two kind of categories, positive identities and negative identities. There's others that are more neutral. And there's a third kind, which you might call, which is just roles, like roles we play. So as Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage and all the men and women are merely players. So as actors, we go on stage and put on a costume, and as good actors, we enter the mind state of the role we're playing. So it could be things like, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, or it could be a group tribe membership. I'm an American, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a spiritual person, whatever. But like an actor who wears a costume in a certain role for many hours a day in, day out, after a while, we might forget to take it off when we're at home, and we might get confused. We believe that this is who we are. So, when I was a teenager, one of my heroes was Sean Connery, who played the role of James Bond. And so if I was Sean Connery and played James Bond, recording many movies and plays and acts, after a while, I may get confused and think that I am that person, and that's my true identity. So I'll make it a little more personal. One of my roles and identities for many years was being a founder and CEO of a couple of tech companies. And I worked many hours a week, 60, 70 hours a week, where I was the important boss. I was the CEO, I was in charge. And that's all great. But the problem was when I came home and I forgot that that was a role, I was trying to be the CEO of my home and my wife. And I told my wife how to load the dishwasher more efficiently. And as you can imagine, it didn't go so well. Um, so maybe it's fine to remember that I'm the CEO when I'm in the office. I can put on that costume, those clothes, but I need to remember that's not who I am and in my essence, and take it off in other contexts. And I could be an American and travel with my American passport when I need to, but it doesn't really define who I am. And my CEO costume might have felt good. I'm important, confident, in charge, and control. But in a way, it's also a compensation for my anxiety, for not being able to control my environment and my insecurity about my worth. Um, and it doesn't work so well relationally. And if I adopt this persona to mask these deficiency feelings and insecurities, they stay hidden at bay, and I can't really address and dissolve them at a deeper level. So if I go back to my James Bond fantasy role, yes, he was my hero as a teenager because he embodied the strength and sexiness, and I didn't feel necessarily the strongest. I felt like I was more of a sensitive, shy kid. Uh, and But if I use that to mask these feelings of weakness and unattractiveness, and now they're repressed, they will rear their ugly head occasionally when the bubble bursts. So I'm sure you know, so we have these confusing, conflicting things. I may feel I'm unattractive and weak on the one hand, but to avoid those feelings, I go into this persona of being strong and sexy, etc. And there's a struggle, and sometimes one side wins, sometimes another. We have this bubble, but sometimes you might have seen people like that have sort of a grandiose narcissistic personality, which is a defense structure against some kind of shame and deficiency. And sometimes when they have the smallest slight, all of a sudden, they burst out and with explosive anger, and you're like, I thought you are this confident person. Why is this getting to you so much? So anyway, I'll take a breath and a sip of my tea. I'm talking fast. There's a lot to cover. But I hope you get the idea, and soon again, you'll have the opportunity to learn and experience some of this yourself, which will happen in a dyad. And we'll work on these three forms of identities. And it will be roles and memberships, and then positive identities and negative identities. And this will just scratch the surface. These are deep inquiries. There'll be a recording of this session. And Pauline and I are going to walk you through the exercise in a moment. So if you want to go deeper, you'll be able to stop on the slide that explains the exercise, and you'll be able to do it on your own as a journaling exercise, or find a friend who's also crazy and willing to go into these places with you, which can be fun if you have the right orientation and spirit for the adventure of uncovering these gems within ourselves. So, some of this stuff can be disorienting at first, because when we do that, we're letting go of our familiar sense of self, the construct, who we take ourselves to be. But when we do that, it can become freeing and expansive. And when we touch into that, we can live from that place more and more with the trust that the right qualities, be it compassion, curiosity, love, strength, joy, will naturally arise because they are inherent to our true nature, our essential nature. All right, I'll take a breath and have another sip of tea. And Pauline, is this a good time for you to join me and we can describe the exercise? So the way we're going to do this is we're going to do explain the exercise, and then I'll guide you through a meditation, so that hopefully it will relax and open you when you go into the exercise. And you could take a couple minute break, bio break, and then we'll start the exercise, and then we'll come back again for questions and comments and group share. So that's our game plan for today. And thank you for hanging in here with me. And Pauline, if you want to join me here. And
Yeah, I'm excited to explain and demo the exercise with you. So we'll take questions after we go through the whole explanation and demo, since hopefully that will explain and show you most of what you'll be doing. And we do have some slides, so you can see, if you're more of a visual learner, what the steps are. And if you're watching the recording, you can feel free to come back to these slides when you're going to be going through it yourself. So let me just pull that up, and then we'll talk through it and demo this as well. Okay, so the exercise is in a few different parts, and the first part is our role identities. And Yosi, do you want to talk us through this?
sure. So as I said, we all hold different roles and different identities. You'll see what comes up. I mentioned some that come up for me, like I'm a father, I'm a American, I'm a spiritual seeker, this, that, and the other. And you'll see what roles and identities. So the question you'll be doing with your partner, and Pauline and I will demonstrate this, is tell me who and what you are. And if you do this on your own, you could set a timer. We'll be setting a timer here as you do this in the breakout. So should we jump in, Pauline? You
Let's go
ready?
right through it. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. So tell me who and what you are.
I am a daughter.
Thank you. Tell me who and what you are.
I am an administrator.
Thank you. Tell me who and what you are.
I am a friend.
Thank you. Tell me who and what you are.
I am a housemate.
Okay, thank you. So you get the idea. You'll do that for a certain amount of time, like 3 minutes. Obviously, when you do this on your own, I recommend you go longer. But you just named a few, Pauline. So it was a friend, a housemate, a daughter. What was the other one? I'm sorry.
Administrator.
Administrator. Okay, so take those identities and divide them up. Put a few in each hand, and see
So
what.
just in case someone's doing this on the recording, we welcome you to have pieces of paper. If you're in the dyads and you happen to have paper, go for it. But it's fine to just imagine that you have these identities, right, Yosi?
Yeah, yeah. So just hold on. Put these identities: a daughter, an administrator, a friend, a housemate, and hold on to them in your hands and see what it's like to. So what is it like for you to hold these identities?
It feels familiar, feels comforting. Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of good to know who you are. Okay, so holding them on, and now just toss them behind you, behind your back. Okay. And so what's it like to just be here now? Simply be here now.
It feels spacious. There's a bit of uncertainty.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and of course you can continue for longer. I will be, or Yosi will be, one of us will be actually having our voice come through when you're in the breakout room, so you'll know when it's time to switch activities. So we'll basically be guiding you through this.
Okay, great. So this is the role identities. Now we'll work with positive and negative identities. So again, I'll demonstrate it with Pauline, and we'll do the same as you see. You ask the question if you're the asking partner, and you're going to switch roles going both ways. So you'll be once asking and once answering in the dyad. So we'll jump in here. So we'll first cover the positive identities, then negative identities. Then we'll kind of go back and forth to get familiar, and then we'll see what it's like to hold both. And then we'll just toss it all and see what's left. So we'll start with tell me one of your positive identities or attributes.
I'm patient,
Thank you. Tell me one of your positive identities or attributes.
detail oriented,
Thank you. Tell me one of your positive identities or attributes.
able to be awe-inspired,
Thank you. Tell me one of your positive identities or attributes.
kind.
Thank you. So put these positive identities in one of your hand. It can be your dominant or non-dominant hand, whichever you feel pulled to put them in, and see what it's like to hold these.
And just a note to remember which hand you're using for positive, because you'll use the other hand for negative.
Yeah.
Okay, got my positive here.
Mm.
And I feel like a sense of solidity or power holding them.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. So you feel strong, powerful, solid. Good. Okay, so you can let that go, shake your hand. And now we'll move into your negative identities. So tell me one of your negative identities or attributes you sometimes hold.
Anxious,
Thank you. Tell me one of your negative identities or attributes you sometimes hold.
forgetful,
Thank you. Tell me one of your negative identities or attributes you sometimes hold.
avoidant,
Thank you. Tell me one of your negative identities or attributes you sometimes hold.
shy.
Thank you. Okay, so now put these in this other hand and see what's it like to have all these negative identities or attributes.
Oh, it feels a little bit unstable. I feel like a contracting towards my center.
Okay.
And we would give you more time just trying to keep us moving
Yeah,
longer.
yeah. Okay, so shake that hand, let it go. And now let's go back and pick the positive ones again.
Okay, so I'm picking up the positive ones in my mind and in my hand, the original hand I used.
Yeah, re-establish yourself in those positive qualities. Kind, patient.
Yeah, and if you're doing this in the dyad, you could feel free to just note on paper in front of you or on a notepad document if you want to have something to reference when you're going through this rather than like the individual pieces of paper. That's fine.
Yeah, so can you reestablish yourself in the positive
I
qualities?
am reestablished, yes.
So what's that like?
Going back to what I said earlier, I feel that again, a sense of strength and power.
Okay, great. Okay, so shake that, let it go. And now go back to pick the negative ones. Shy and anxious.
Yeah, I almost feel like I'm shriveling up like a wilting flower.
Okay. Good. So you could go back and forth between these hands, but for now we'll just keep the negative.
Okay.
And now let's add back the positive. Patient, kind, attention to detail, but also anxious and shy. And what's it like to hold both?
Well, picking up the positive with the negative, I immediately felt some sort of like polarity or inner conflict. It was really interesting, a sense of energy trying to stabilize, but it also felt electric in a way. And I just feel more enlivened.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. So you're like this polarity. There's a charge between them,
Yeah, like an inner tug of war.
an inner tug of war. Uh-huh. Okay. So what's that like with the inner tug of war?
It's creating more space, like a sense of, well, almost like I'm being ripped apart, but in a good way.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Very strange. It sounds really dire, but it actually feels, yeah, expansive.
Okay. All right. So now let's toss all the positive and negative
Awesome. Okay.
behind. So what's here now without any positive or negative identities, so to speak?
Huh. Well, I feel alone all of a sudden. That's interesting.
Uh-huh.
Like empty,
Uh-huh.
but also quiet and calm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it feels a little bit vulnerable.
More open, more vulnerable, more naked. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, these identities keep us company. And without them, we can feel alone and lonely. Yeah. So thank you for your courage and going here. So anything can come up here. There's no right or wrong experience. Um, anything can come up. And your experience is true, whatever it is. So let's open it up for some questions. Um,
Oh, I do just want to make a note about the way it's going to flow between the two partners. So just as we demonstrated, one person is going to go through all of the steps. And then at the very end, like I just finished all of the steps, then we would switch. So then I would be asking Yosi the questions.
okay, you think we should do it that way as opposed to just doing, yeah, I guess roles and then doing
Oh,
positive?
yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, let's go with that. So questions. Is it clear? You any how how do you feel about going there? I mean, it could be a little edgy to,
So I have a question.
yeah, please.
I got the gist of this. It's actually my whole life experience. But so we're going to do one person will go through those three parts and then we'll switch. What happens in the space between to facilitate the switch? Because that's a deep process.
Well, we'll take a little time, and I guess given the people that are here, Pauline and I will narrate, and we'll just invite you in to switch. One other thing, actually, before you go in, when you find yourself in the breakout room, take a moment, 1 minute each, to just introduce yourself to the other person. So it is, you're going into vulnerable territory to talk about these identities and positive and negative attributions you have about yourself. So yeah, just introduce yourself. And obviously everything that's being said and who's here is all confidential. So you know, please hold it as the witness. Just hold space, and you know, your partner is you know, going into vulnerable places. So just treat it as a sacred inquiry that they're sharing with you something from the depths of their soul. And so yeah, we'll take a little time to in between. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but it brought in my mind this thing that we want to hold this kind of in tender and sacred container.
But yeah, we'll give some space between the switching for both of you to drop in and be together in silence for a little bit before switching.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, I'm going to pause the recording.
Okay. So yes, thank you for joining us for this meditation. I'll just find a comfortable seated position, letting the body drop in, drop down, feeling the weight of the body and the force of gravity as Mother Earth, with her loving embrace, always pulling us into her center, while at the same time supporting us through the ground, the floor under the feet, under the seat cushion, under our sit bones, to remain in place. For our body, made all of earth elements, like the earth, over 70% water, oxygen, carbon, and other minerals that the earth provides. The water we drink, the air we breathe, the food we eat. So let's draw in some of that nourishment and sustenance and support from the ground, from the earth, up through the feet, the legs, the pelvis, letting it circulate through the body, and then exhaling back down the excess and the waste, the tension we don't need, letting it compost back into the soil below. And taking another breath or two like that, entering a state of co-regulation by synchronizing our breath with the earth. And then letting the spine align. It serves as an energetic channel connecting the pelvis, the legs, the feet from below, and then through the crown top of the head that's pointing at the cosmic sky and heavenly realm. So it serves as an energetic channel where we can also draw now starlight energy. Even the darkest night sky is full of starlight energy, as well as cosmic microwave background radiation, which is light frequencies we don't see, but fill the entire cosmos, which are echoes from the Big Bang, from the moment of creation. So the entire space above is filled with light, some of it visible, some of it not. So we'll draw that starlight energy through the crown top of the head, bringing it down into the body through the spine, letting it circulate, and then on the exhale, returning it back to the cosmic realm. So here we are, suspended between the sky and the earth, heaven and earth, and we can mix in those two energies and merge them, merging heaven and earth in our hearts. And we will begin with the inspired protocol now, starting with the letter I, inward gazing. N, nostril breathing. S, spine supporting. Spirit soaring. P, posture aligning. I, inhaling, exhaling. R, relaxing, receiving. Resting feet flat on the ground, connected to the center core of Mother Earth. E, expanding awareness. Sit bones, perineum, and pelvic floor. Entire pelvis, hip joints, and pubic bone. Lower belly and hara point. Diaphragm and solar plexus. Heart, chest, and lungs. Throat. Jaw. Tongue. Lips. Cheekbones. Nose. Eye sockets. And the space between them at the brow. Temples. And the space between them at the pineal gland. Crown, top of the head. A foot above the head. Back of the skull. Back base of the skull at the occiput. Back of the neck. Upper shoulders. Shoulder blades. And the space between them at the back of the heart. A foot behind the heart. Arms. Hands. Legs. Feet. Entire skeletal and bone structure as it supports the whole body, including the tissues, muscles, organs, and blood vessels, sensing the pulsating flow of the blood through the arteries, veins, and heart. Entire body and the space all around it. The space above the head, how high does it extend? And the space down below, how low does it go? And the space in front ahead, where does it end? And the space in back behind, does it have an end? And the space in the heart and chest, how deep does it descend? Sensing the totality and vastness of space as it envelops, surrounds, and permeates the body. D, dwelling, abiding in this vast, boundless space. Deepening into essence. Dropping in deeper, abiding in pure being. Doing nothing. Simply receiving and allowing the totality of reality. Resting in being, the simplicity and immutable truth of I am. I am that I am, with its dynamic flow and unfoldment of experience, ever changing and evolving, arising fresh and anew, moment to moment, being and becoming. I am that I am. I will be as I will be. Resting, dropping in deeper into the vast, black, quiet space. The space that holds and permeates all reality. Continuing to rest in being. Dropping deeper into the ground of being. This dark, quiet space we drop into for rest every night while in deep sleep. This vast, boundless space that is empty, the nothing or no thing in it, yet also full of potential. The empty space that is the ground of being, which contains and gives rise to all experience and all things. The ground of being that is prior to and beyond being, from which being and becoming arise. this ground of being that is empty space that envelops and permeates all reality, like the dark, invisible energy that fills the entire space of our cosmos. It is quiet, dark, and black stillness that is luminous like the dark night sky. We're continuing to drop in, dwell, and abide in this dark space, in the purity of being and the ground of being, the groundless ground of being from which all being and becoming arises. The ground of being that sustains and gives rise to all reality, all being, and all the dynamic flow of life, all becoming. The essential ground of being and becoming. While continuing to dwell and abide in this ground, in this space, allowing and including all that arises, including the sound of these words, any body sensations, and in a moment, letting the eyes open and including the light, the colors, the textures, the shapes that come in without needing to go out, just allowing and receiving. This voice and any other sounds that arise from the silence in between the sounds. So slowly, we will be transitioning to the breakout rooms. And you could try and root yourself in this state of being. Open, receptive, allowing, simply noticing, nothing to do. So we'll proceed with the instructions for the exercise.
And just a reminder, when you arrive in your breakout room, you can take about a minute each to just say hello to each other and introduce yourselves while staying in this grounded place. Okay, here we go. Welcome back.
So we dove deep today, deep and into the dirty muck of our negative identities, but we'll soar high into our higher self next time, and we'll see what's there. So it's been a delight and an honor, and thank you for your trust.